All right, hello and welcome to year two of Axis and Allies 1942. The version with Italy in the game, which I think is very fun and cool. The Axis got a huge bid in the very first round, pushed us in and made me nervous all around. But on the very first turn with Russia, we did get a decent amount of territory by pushing out. So I decided to be a little bit greedy this round and buy a plane instead of just 10 men. 10 men would have been great. You could put them in Russia, Caucasus, load up, run away. But I think that because Russia, or rather Germany, can't all stand in eastern Ukraine, the territory that forks both of my kind of important capital regions, this turn at least, he can only get some of his army. Like if he put all of his army forward, it would be in Belorussia. That means I can stack and defend Russia without a full complement of infantry. I have a moment right now to buy a plane, which I think is pretty critical, is pretty important. So what I'm going to do is just send forward 2 men and a bomber, 2 men and a plane, just so they can't do any weird blitzing. I want to guarantee I get these territories. Everything else is coming back to Russia with some tanks into Caucasus, because Caucasus gives tanks a lot of flexibility here. In the non-combat move, I might do some more as well, but hey, what do you know? The tank hit back. Good thing I sent 2 men. And then we hit and survive, so we're thick in Ukraine. So yeah, I think these tanks come to Caucasus. I think some of the men in Caucasus can come down, but these men should go to Russia, and we should get a really thick stack. Again, I'm retreating from the Far East. If the Japanese want to chase me, that's their prerogative. I don't have the extra Air Force, bombers, planes to fight back. If they stack all of it in Yakut, I will have to keep moving back, but maybe we'll get in a situation where I leave some tanks here, and if he really does stack tall, we can turn around, blow up his stack, let some infantry trickle, and bring it back in time to save ourselves from the Germans. Unlikely, but something worth talking about. Let's bring this AA gun back down and one into Russia. They didn't bomb me while my AA gun was out of town, but that's fine. I'm happy that they didn't, but they could have. I'm also sending some people down to India just to make sure we're good. And I sent one guy down into China. Not sure if this will make a difference, but trying to keep China in the game seems like a decent option, but they are very quickly being overwhelmed. Again, that Axis bid just makes it so much faster for them to hit on the ground. And now they have the factory in Manchuria. Our days are numbered. Let's hit done and see what the Germans are going to do with their build here. I'll put my plane in here. Part of me wants to put the plane here so it can go 1, 2, 3 attack, but I don't think I can send my Air Force in that direction, basically. And 3 more men into Russia. That makes a pretty tall stack. No hard hitters, no fighters or tanks defending Russia, but a ton of men. So, that's pretty good. The Germans are going to repair, and they're going to shove forward, it would seem. Oh, no, just a gentle push, actually. They didn't send, a thick stack, but they might non-combat, depending on how these fights go. Looks like they're getting away with very few casualties overall. They are buying an AA gun. I don't know why. Oh, probably for Karelia. So we have 40 income with the British. That's not bad. I don't think that we can counterattack into Egypt now. They have so much. Look at this thick stack in this sea zone as well. Only a cruiser here and the fighter there. I guess the Italians haven't gone yet. I'm overemphasizing. But look at this. 10 guys in here. 4 tanks, 6 infantry, plus the blitz potential. Plus the Italians are technically eligible to blitz right now. They could take their convoy, pick up a tank and a man, come back, drop these 3 tanks, plus the tank and a man, 5 ground units, and their plane. Thankfully, I put my 4 tank stack here with my 2 planes. I think we're safe. First impressions for the British before I actually do out the turn. I would say that they didn't actually end up killing my destroyer. That opens up possibilities for us to come at them in here. Send the cruiser, send the destroyer, and do some punching, right? They have 3 units here, including this transport. Why would we not do that? Well, the only reason not to do that is because the Germans have an Air Force up here of 4 fighters. They can go into Sea Zone 4 and then across. So they can attack and cut back to Karelia. 4 things isn't that bad, though. Especially when you consider my cruiser would be there to soak a shot. Where's this bomber here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can bring the bomber back through. 1, 2, 3. We could even use the bomber to hit that zone and land it in Russia again. So my first thought is this fleet has to go, or the Germans will have the opportunity to use their fleet and air force at the same time, and I can't have them sinking this tile because it's going to be full of Americans coming through as well. So that's pretty important. What else are the British doing? We also have India. We're going to have to put some people in India. We do have a fighter. Again, all of the Japanese transports are in the north. They could, 1, 2, come into Western Canada. I don't have any units or transports available in this sector. So, like, if they were just like a cheeky player, they could land in Alaska and threaten Western United States and some other things right now. I sent my bombers to the United Kingdom, so I can't actually use them in this sector. That means that the Western United States should probably buy some tanks just in case they land anywhere. I can SWAT. But still, East Indies is on the table for the Americans. So really, the British can do whatever the hell they want. They have an extra fighter here that they don't need at the moment. But we don't have any units up in here. We definitely can't counterattack Egypt. Though we might be able to stand in the Belgian Congo and just kind of threaten the Italians if they want to come this way. It's not looking good either way. So yeah, let's do the purchase and I'll get back to you. All right, let's talk about things in, I don't know, increasing importance. In India, we're sending some men forward with a couple of fighters. We're going to try and really build up some pressure, evacuate Transjordan, and see if we can... actually, maybe... Oops, sorry. Wrong undo. And see if we can keep the pressure up in India going into Japan with some of our purchase, some men, some artillery, and some fighters going this way. Japan, they're going to start spitting out men in Manchuria, but they don't have a ton of transports, right? Their transports are up here in the Far East, basically. So I think there's an opportunity for us to really threaten this southern area as Britain. We can't fight Egypt right now. The Italians are so strong. But hey, we can keep a group of men in reserve here that's just out of range. The Suez Canal is still closed, which is nice. But the men in Belgian Congo can kind of try and defend. If the Italians rush a tank down, their plane is out of position to support. So I'm feeling pretty good overall. The transport over here is going to continue moving. There's no wolf packs around, so we're fine. And then finally, the British Air Force, the destroyer, the cruiser, whatnot, is all coming into the Baltic Sea zone. So that's going to make sure that the Germans are dead. All they'll have is the 4 fighters. We're deploying another aircraft carrier and fighter. Our fighters should come back. Everything should stay safe. This convoy is going to end up here. We're getting another convoy now, so soon we'll get up to the convoy limit of 8 that the UK can do. And we should be able to do a lot. I wanted to go into Norway as well. I do have the transport and the tanks, the men, the whatnot in the United Kingdom. But, with our Air Force occupied sinking this fleet, it just felt like a stretch. And the Americans are about to come in hard, and they have a bunch of bombers on standby. So I think that this is happening exactly as we planned. Let's go ahead and go for it. Let's do Burma first, see if the Japanese hit us back. They did, unfortunate, but it's going to happen. And then in the sea zone, we did hit our triple hit. I believe we had a half chance of getting a triple hit. They had a chance of getting a hit on us back. I guess I'll get rid of the destroyer because there's no German subs left. So the cruiser is helpful for doing bombards, and it's more likely to survive if the German planes come in to destroy it. We're going to bring the bomber back like we discussed. Fighters back up here. And then these fighters need to come back to India. One of them could go further, right? But I don't really want to split the fighters up at this point. There was a naked plane in French Indochina that I was looking at earlier, but it just didn't really make sense. So let's hit done. Let's deploy all the naval stuff in here, and let's deploy all the ground stuff in India. So India is getting pretty strong already. just a couple placements, and we're moving. And that gets us into the Italian turn. Importantly, um, for the objectives here, the British have like nothing, but controls any territory originally owned by Japan. I believe if we can push our advantage down here a little bit further, we should be getting some bonuses. But you can see the bonuses being applicable, helping Japan, not Russia, helping Germany, not Britain, helping Italy, and a little bit America, just because we came out the gate swinging. So yeah, I would say that these objectives gave us a couple extra infantry for China, our weakest player, but it's definitely helping the AI much more than it is us. Looks like 1, 2, 3. We could put some pressure on Italy's tank down here next turn, but then again, in the future, their transports will be able to bring more pain to the continent. So we'll see. In terms of the Americans, what am I thinking? Again, I'm worried about an invasion into Western United States with this convoy. I don't think that's what they will do, but they technically can start bringing some of this army. Their second transport is out of position, but if they did want to go for just Alaska, they could get 2 transports up there with a big fleet. We would be in a nasty position for that. So we kind of need to honor the threat. But otherwise, I just need a trickle of units to be able to send this way. Hopefully they start making it to Eastern Canada and our transports can just go back and forth. So I'm going to think about the buy. Basically, we want to get Norway this turn. One of these days, France is going to be looking pretty good. Actually, I should really consider France more deeply here because it might seem crazy, but the German fighters are 1, 2, 3. The Germans can't do this invasion unless they own Northwest Europe or France. So I could send my transports down here and be completely fine because their air force is so out of position. What I'd be worried about is the Italians doing something, but the Italians are actually after the Germans. So this is a really good chance for us to swoop in here, grab a couple of points in Northwestern Europe and France. But it does slow down the whole Norway thing that I was hoping to do. And I can't just do one of the 2 locations. I have to do both, or I'm in big doo-doo caca. So I'm going to have to think about that. I'm going to have to think about the buy, and I'm going to have to think about defending ourselves against Far East. So I'll get back. All right, so we've done the American turn of purchasing and actions. Basically, what it ended up being is we have the option of going to France and Northwestern Europe, but I decided even though those are the objectives, it's not sustainable, and I need to alleviate the pressure on the Russian front. Getting some of their few units in Karelia to move back is going to pay dividends and taking off pressure much more than going to France and potentially just having the Italians cover off for the Germans. So even though the Americans are going to lose out on a little bit of purchase power from not controlling France, it wouldn't have made it to the British turn or anything else. But speaking of the British, by taking the East Indies, we should have some territories originally controlled by Japan. That'll do some help for us. I mean, I think that we're in a good enough spot. We also bought some stuff, a new aircraft carrier and a plane, just to make sure that if the Japanese did come, we'd have a bulwark of aircraft carriers and fighters and whatnot in the area. In fact, I might even move all this down 1 tile just because I can. Again, the bomber 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of these bombers can make it, but it would only be a bomber and 2 fighters. I would still have enough to come back if needed. 1, 2, 3. Actually, no. It's not quite enough. Basically, I just want to make sure that if they did land in Alaska or something, I could destroy all their units. If they positioned to try and invade me, I would have enough fleet here that it's like a shield and they can't get into America. Other than Alaska, which again, I would have enough units to counterattack. It would be unsustainable. It's just a cheeky play that they could do. The only reason to move down, and I keep thinking of doing it, and I've undone and redone it, is because if ever they do try and do some sketchy stuff to my fleet, I can regroup somewhere interesting like Caroline Islands or Solomon Islands. or even Philippines. Philippines is one of our targets, and I would have enough units to do it otherwise. This combat should be guaranteed between the two bombards and the fighters. They do have a lot that could attack me here. This plane could come out, this sub, battleship, aircraft carrier, but nothing but the planes here could reach with the plan of landing on this aircraft carrier, because without East Indies, they have nowhere to land. It's just out of range of their bombers and fighters. And then, yeah, Norway, we have a whole stack of bombers over top of our units, and our convoy should be protected by this British fleet. So let's conduct naval bombardments. East Indies first. The bombard and the planes hit. They did kill one of my units, which is spooky, because I only have one guy now. It's hard for me to replenish those units on the front line. And then Norway, we did get the extra hit on the first turn, wiping them completely out. I think we actually hit for 4 there. So the bombers come back home. The bombers could live in Russia, but I like keeping them out here just in case some weird fleet shenanigans opens up. The same thing with this destroyer. It's a weird coastal province to have it in, but it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And then these planes come out here. And yeah, that should be everything. We are going to need American convoys on this side of the world soon. 2 of these tanks go here, and the rest come up here. We're just trying to get 4 units into Eastern Canada every turn, and then shuffling these convoys over and over and over again. Should be good. This brings us to China. Again, the Japanese have a whole suite of bombers and stuff here. I could move back. I kind of have to, unfortunately. They just have so much air power, I can't stand up to it. So it's just a simple retreat. I'll put a guy in Xinjiang just to maybe stop them from taking the province. It's a little harder. They can get 3 guys here, but only 2 guys here. But we'll see. Getting at least 2 provinces makes it so that we can drop a Chinese soldier every turn, so that's nice. But yeah, again, with the objectives, the Axis are really reaping a lot. Is this a British one? If Allies control... Is East Indies considered British land that's under occupation? I think that's what it is. It's hard to tell. Maybe if I hit territories... Original owner British. See, British. These ones here, this is Chinese. So I need to get to Thailand. Borneo is also considered British. Philippines is considered American. New Guinea is considered British. Caroline is Japanese. I guess I could take some of these islands to help the British out. Formosa. Yeah. Done placing. Americans get up to $50. And we're back to the Japanese, who are building anti-aircraft guns. They did come forward with a bomber. Yeah, it's a tricky one for sure. And that's a lot on the ground here. Holy. Sorry for the sound of the Russians. But how do I feel as the Russians? Basically, the Germans are knocking on the door. If I click territory, it's easier to read. There is 10 German land units in this territory alone, with 3 more tanks that could blitz. So that's a really nasty 13. And then the Italians are quite strong as well, with 6 land units and 2 more that can blitz. So what the Russians need to achieve, and this is very tricky, is taking each of these territories to stop blitzes, Eastern Ukraine being the strongest one, and then we need to stack up in Caucasus. If we don't take all 3 of these territories, they could do weird blitzes, and we'll have to split our stack, and I don't know, man. We're on the precipice of like potentially a double attack. The AI is not really good at coordinating between its divided armies. But yeah, we're feeling pretty vulnerable right now. We might go 8 infantry and an artillery. And exactly what I'm saying. Like 2 men and an artillery is kind of overkill up here. Basically, it's like you want to try and send 2 men to each location. And this is the most important one because it allows blitzing into well, they're all important. This one gets the bomber. This one gets this. I have some planes. Archangel is less critical. So something like this, again, this is where we're getting a lot of value out of the Russian Air Force. And then non-combat everything else. Russia is kind of being put in a box right now. And I don't have enough resources to try and resist Japan, but I would love... I think I'm going to end up moving my tanks. I can't move my tanks out of Caucasus because they're knocking on the door. So I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to give it a shot. Let's start at the top going down. Archangel, we did get extra hits. They hit me back. Don't hit me a second time. Okay, we're good. Okay, Belarusia in the center. They missed, but they hit on the second shot. Honestly, that's fine. We got a blocker. Not so bad. We remain. One thing that is sketchy, this actually worked out really well, but the Germans can clear out these troops here, and the Russians could slip their 3 tanks through. So we can't be completely unguarded in returning all these troops, but basically a stack needs to come down here. 10, 12. I'm going to bring this guy back from Kazakh. I like being able to splice in Russian moves in between other things, but yeah, I'm not feeling so good, Tony Stark here. We do need to stop that tank from blitzing, so a unit into the Urals. Yeah, and I do like having artillery to force some aggression if they do try and stack. I don't know where they would try and stack, so I guess the artillery in Belarusia does make sense. I think this is okay with a lot of units to place. But we're in a tricky spot, that's for sure. So let's go all infantry here, and then the other 4 units there. Okay. Russians are only collecting $20, so economically, we're in a bad way. So here comes the Russians, or the Germans into Belarusia. They're blowing up the Americans. They're killing a whole bunch of things. Let me pull this aside for a second. Yeah, they came into here rushing their tanks. That's fine. We're expecting them to do stuff like that. The Japanese fighters are coming all the way out here. That's interesting. They're pushing everywhere. They didn't do this big attack. They're buying bombers, though, so they are getting more Air Force. We'll see how that works out for them. I'm just looking around to see if there's anything that we need to really point out. It's a little bit spooky, but all things considered, I think we're okay. Though, again, objectives. They're just getting so many objectives. We really need to do something about that. So they're attacking. We're losing men. $30 is Britain. How am I feeling with Britain? Well, I'm going to have 4 units per turn for now, soon to be 6 that I can put into Norway. It's nice when the Americans are the ones to liberate Norway and keep it, because that would mean that they get to control the territory, and controlling the territory means they can build a factory there. So there's something to be said right now about me leaving some units up here strong enough to defend against 4 fighters, but 1, 2, 3, sending in the British and capturing these territories, forcing the Italians to respond. Maybe the Americans can help too. I'm just trying to make sure I have enough units to defend all the things. But this is okay. This is okay. Again, there's a little bit of a weirdness here with the Japanese having a tank and 8 planes, plus the planes out here, plus this battle fleet. Okay, a little spooky, But hey, at least they didn't do any weird Alaskan stuff. It looks like Caroline Islands is the place for me to stack up here with my 5 planes. 1, 2, 3. He does have 3, 4 aircraft carriers, so maybe Caroline Islands is too brave. He can't get to India this turn. Anyway, there's a lot of things I'm thinking about. Putting some pressure on Transjordan to keep the Suez closed might be nice. I wanted to push into Italian, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just don't have a good bomber pattern to do that. It's just a little too far for my fighter to get there and to have a safe landing spot. So let me pause up and we'll think. All right, so this time the British are going to push into French Indochina and actually achieve their objective of owning some land that the Italians had at the start of the game. So, or not Italians, but Japanese. So that actually gives us some benefit. And look at that! It actually they're gonna get it back, French Indochina. But for a moment, for half a second, this giant Japanese army isn't controlling all the things that they want. They also don't have Hawaiian Islands or India, so they're not getting the bonus there either. Sucks to suck, guys. In Transjordan, you can see the Italians moves forward a man, so we're going to come back, swipe at that with some planes. We are going to fight in Italian Africa. The reason is I can get the bomber back to Persia, and for a turn we can land our fighters there, and the only thing that can really swipe at it is the Japanese bombers is the only thing. So with a couple of men, a couple fighters, the bomber should be totally safe. Again, with the German Air Force and Italian Air Force stuck up here in Karelia, we're kind of able to do a lot that we wouldn't be able to get away with a human opponent. So that kind of puts us in a good spot. Let's go ahead into actions here. Hit done. I'm just sniping around. This transport's ready to go in next turn. I did ultimately decide Norway is the target. I don't need to put any planes in because I have the 2 bombards from the cruiser and they only have 1 unit here. I'm just not ready to push France yet. I can't hold 2 zones with the whole bomber being put in here or a couple of Japanese fighters. Like it just adds up. It's a little too much. So naval combat, yes, let's do Norway. We did hit. They hit back. That's unfortunate. They do have 3 tanks here. Again, Germans spending tanks to take this back every turn instead of stationing units in Finland. Like, I'm okay with that. In fact, I'd love it if they took it back so that the Americans could take it, but that's hard to make happen. Let's go Transjordan. That's over here. We do get our hit, and that kills. So we're in there with quite a few men. They have lots of guys here that they can attack back with, but they're 2 different factions, so they can't hit together. And then we do end up hitting Italian Africa, so that allows us to bring our Air Force back into Persia. This Air Force is sitting. We're getting 7 units this turn, right? Because we want to put 3 men into India, keep this stacking up, and have enough for our 2 transports to keep unloading. But it also left us enough to buy another fighter to max out our 2 aircraft carriers. Now, next turn, we can think about splitting them up, especially if we can trim the German Air Force. If they build another bomber, it might slow us down once again in terms of actually executing on more planes or more landings. Again, with the Japanese here, these are basically wasted fighters, but I guess they don't need them over here. They have so many. Oh my god. But hey, the British did get an objective for once, which is very nice. Here comes the Italians into Transjordan. They did use their transport there to bring in fresh units. They built a lot new tanks. I can't do anything to this fleet with the destroyer, the battleship, the 2 cruisers. Like it's just too much. But hey, at least we're holding them off from just taking all of Africa. 1 artillery unit left. That bomber and the artillery unit could push into this in a way that's nice, but that would basically be the end of it. So yeah, the Americans, hopefully we can double up on Norway now, make all of that very strong and hard to crack. Then from there we can liberate Europe starting from the Baltics. And then over here, the Japanese have put together a fleet. I'm going to have to do some math to figure out if we can survive in Caroline or if we have to pull back to Solomon. Again, we have that extra aircraft carrier coming in as well. But hey, 3 aircraft carriers and 1 battleship versus 2 battleships and 4 aircraft carriers, it just doesn't seem tenable, unfortunately, which means we'll end up losing our East Indies. So we might end up even taking the unit with us. It's much harder for us to get an extra soldier out here than anything else. Plus, we need some transports. We just need it. So let me think about this. All right, so the American turn. It's pretty positional. I don't even think we have any combats. Rather, we're just moving our units up into Canada, from Canada into Norway. I decided to bring in this destroyer just because there are no subs right now. That's kind of fine. Really, if we're ever going to split our fleet, we're going to need extra hit points in one of these 2 spots. And from here, the American destroyer is chilling. It's fine. So there you go. 3 men and a tank into Norway. More men and tanks coming. I did send 1 tank over because I only had enough money for 1 extra transport in this fleet because I needed to build some ships. I didn't quite have enough money to build more aircraft carriers and fighters, so I did get a fighter to fill this out, but it means that I had to go to Solomon's. Brave Sir Robin ran away. There's just too much in this Japanese fleet with all of these fighters around for me to go into Caroline, because again, this territory is 1, 2, 3, 4. So they can all get to Caroline, and then all of these aircraft carriers basically can catch them there. And even these ones could get there and then come back out. So it's just quite nasty. Quite frankly, it's quite nasty. So anyway, I brought the bombers over from Europe. It seems like now we have a presence. It's fine. The bombers weren't able to do that much this turn, so let's bring them west and try and threaten this Japanese fleet, force them to put units onto the land, or into the sea rather than just on land. And hopefully that's enough to kind of alleviate pressure on both fronts. So let's hit done. There's no combats. The only thing is a non-combat. Again, I've already done all of my non-combats. So let's hit done. That is a transport, a destroyer, a cruiser, and a plane. It's a mishmash of units, but the way that the numbers came out felt okay. I do have men in Hawaii that I can pick up with this transport, so a tank and a man in Hawaii on the way to Caroline, for instance, with more things being deployed to go here to Eastern Canada. I could have saved on a tank because I sent one around, but that's fine. That's fine. It just means that the turn after, I did save on a tank, but I'll still have 2 tanks to send the turn after. Without the bombers, we're going to need the punching power of those tanks, so that felt okay to me. That brings us to the Chinese combat phase. Again, they can't leave China, so this is as far as the road goes for them. There's 4 of them. There's a bunch of bombers and stuff. It's probably worth trying a counter push here. Otherwise, they just do an easy all the planes come in and kill you either way. So this way I might get to deploy an extra guy in Shanghai. And if we get unlucky, we get unlucky. We did hit and they missed, so that's nice. But we didn't own enough territories at the start of the round to even deploy another guy. Americans get a bunch of stuff. Uh-oh, here come the Japanese one more time. Blowing up the one Japanese province that we owned that made the British happy. Our Chinese men died, killing a single guy. China has been completely destroyed, and Evenki is full of units. I mean, this is a nasty situation to be in if you are Russia, because you constantly have to push to make space. Caucasus is under threat, and now so is Evenki. I could send the planes over here, but if I did, they wouldn't get back in time to defend Caucasus. There could be an attack of 11 ground troops from Germany, plus 4 more, plus the bomber, plus these fighters. So I don't know what we can do about Evenki. I could send 4 guys back, but without the entire Air Force, and the Air Force is busy, it's not enough. I could push them into Shanghai kind of thing, but even that is like kind of a no-go, quite frankly. So I don't really know what to do right now. the Japanese ground forces are too difficult for me to handle. The Japanese fleet did run away, though. Brave fleet ran away. And they're so far out of position that I could take New Guinea, or I could stack in Caroline Islands. And if I stack in Caroline Islands, it will 100% make the British get a territory under control that is Japanese, so they'll love that. And these Americans coming down here means 2 fully loaded aircraft carriers. They have 4 and 3 battleships. Never mind. They have 1 cruiser. I would have 2 cruisers. I'd have 3 destroyers. They only have 2 and 1. I'd be on the defense. Naval battles do favor the defender because of the aircraft carriers and the plane being defensive, unless the other person has bombers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other player does have those 3 bombers, so we could have a huge naval battle. The fact that he has 3 battleship hit points, though, means that I probably have to relegate myself to something else. I guess I could try and take like a New Guinea. I just don't have the... Part of me thinks it's worth forcing them to fight me, because whatever they send, we can hit the survivors with like a bunch of bombers or submarines or whatnot. So that might just inform the American turn. I'm thinking so far forward, but the Pacific theater and containing Japan is so important right now, and we are in a weird place. I mean, if the bombers and everything is going one way, that means they don't have it for the other side. But yeah, the British are holding Transjordan and Africa together as best they can, with the Germans and the Italians constantly supplying more troops. So we're just really in a tight box right now. I don't know what to do. It's probably time to finally attack France. Oh, I don't know. And this is with a bunch of Japanese fighters over here. I'd love to be in just Sea Zone 6 and 7. Anyway, I don't know why I'm thinking so hard on my next turn. I have to do that in the next video. I hope you enjoyed. In terms of objectives, again, the Russians do have some. Soviet forces control Archangel and no Allied forces in Soviet-controlled territories. So as long as they're controlling here and no Allied forces in Soviet-controlled territories, that's funny. You can't have people in there helping them. It's kind of like a Lend-Lease program. But hey, the 10, if the Allies control Norway, Finland, Poland, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, Balkans. Norway, Finland, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria. It's going to be hard. Balkans. I don't know how we're going to get the pinch on like that. Norway and Finland are easy enough. Poland is all the way in here. I guess we have to shift into France, Northwestern Europe, and then maybe even into Africa. Put some threat on Italy. Italy is so strong, though. Oh, God. This is such an interesting game. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. I'll see you next time. Ciao for now.